My guest this evening is someone I consider a very special, unique personality, and all-around great guy. His name is Mike Couch. Now, if you already know Mike, then I'm sure you will agree with me that that last sentence was accurate and right on the mark. Now let me try to give you a brief glimpse of what we will discuss tonight. See, Mike is an author, having penned the book How I Ended Up with One Leg Instead of Two, which is the story of his life so far growing up. We will go into detail about the book this evening. Then there's his love of the paranormal. Mike shares that passion most of us investigators feel about exploring the unknown. The difference is, Mike owns his own paranormal hotspot. In fact, he actually lives in it. Okay, so the Rhodes Hotel is now owned by the Lost Limbs Foundation. Did I hear you say, what's the Lost Limbs Foundation? Well, tonight you'll learn about this nonprofit 501(c) corporation and the awesome work that it does to help children. And lastly, do you watch Amazon Prime at all? If you do, I'm asking you please, after you finish watching this podcast all the way through, watch the documentary Unlimited Journey. This is the story of Mike Couch, along with Nick Groff, raising money for lost limbs by climbing Mount Washington. You're going to laugh, you're going to cry, and you're going to feel inspired. I watched it the other night, and it's truly an amazing film. So now, folks, it's time for Mike Couch.
Well, this is going to be fun. This is crazy. One leg, crutches, trying to climb 6,300 feet on a mountain. I'm not giving up. There's no turning back. I'm going to do this. Definitely a lot harder than I expected it to be. I mean, I knew it was going to be tough, but it's rough right now.
Well, howdy, everyone, and welcome to the Your Life Matters show. I'm Steve Hodgson, and as we said, our guest today is an amazing person. I'm sorry, I know you must hear that all the time, and you probably turn white in embarrassment, like, oh, come on, guy, okay? But he is, and his name is Mike Couch. Mike, thank you for joining us on the show here this evening.
Thanks for having me on the show tonight.
It's a pleasure having you here.
Same here.
We got a lot to talk about tonight. Okay, there is a lot to talk about. What for our listeners that are wondering, okay, what was that we just watched? I just thought it was perfect the way we're going to have fun today. Okay, it was perfect timing right at the end of the other one, but we are going to talk in detail about what you just watched there, and what you need to watch there, because it was an amazing thing. So we're talking about amazing, and so far your life's been an amazing journey. Okay, there's just no other way. Yes, interesting. Had some super highs, some super lows, and yours more than others. Okay, and I'm going to talk about some of the adventures, and I want to start with the book that I got here. How I ended up with there's the screen. Okay, how I ended up with one leg instead of two. Now, usually, as I told Mike prior to, I usually ask questions and let them answer the questions. But because it's basically bringing your story at least up to date, I want to back out of it. Okay, they don't want to hear me anyway. I'm on oxygen. No, I want them to hear you. So, Mike, the stage is yours. Tell us a little about the book and your life so far.
Yeah, to start off, like the craziness with the name of the book. Just before I get into the other stuff, like it's interesting with the name of the book. When everything like came about, if anybody has watched the show Supernatural, a lot of people know Bobby Singer. So Jim Beaver, I've known for quite a long time now, and we've he did this book that he wrote, and we were talking, and he was saying, I'd love to read your story, like what happened and all this stuff, and that's kind of what inspired me to write the book. But on top of that, the name of the book is, as you just said, the name of the name of the book. That came about because I didn't know what to name the book. I was just like, I have no clue. So before I get into telling about the book, I like to tell this little story on here. Like, I was talking to Jim, and he's like, if I went into a store and I just like looking around and saw something that said, oh, like how I lost, how I ended up with one leg instead of two or something like that. He's like, I'd pick it up and look at it. And I'm just like, you just named the book, because I can't come up with anything. So I was like, that's going to be the name of the book. So I told him, I was like, I'm stealing that, and that's what I'm going to use for it. But anyway,
it's a great name because he's correct, because it's something that says, okay, wait a minute, you're already giving them a glimpse of a story just with a title.
Yeah, exactly. So he was. I told him, I was like, I'm stealing the name. That's what that's going to be the name of the book. And he's like, all right, that's cool. So, but anyway, about the book. So to go all the way to the beginning, I was born with this venous malformation. The veins were knotted up in just the right leg and foot my entire life. And I struggled as a kid, had a lot of issues at school, trying to get from class to class and all these different things because of the pain and swelling. I had to deal with that often, quite a bit, sometimes at weeks and sometimes even months. But I grew up dealing with that my whole life. I got into probably, I think it was like late 2009, I believe. And I was having issues. I was getting blood clots and stuff like that. The circulation was bad, a lot of pain, a lot of swelling, started to get blood clots, get checked out. Doctor tried a few things. And then finally in 2010, he sat down and he's just like, look, you got two choices, basically. I'm going to shoot it to you straight. He's like, you can either take a chance at maybe getting a clot and the possibility of it going to your heart or your lungs and possibly killing you, or we can amputate just above the knee and hope that we get most of it and things will be somewhat normal afterwards. So obviously there's only one choice, to make. And it was a difficult choice, even though it was the only choice. But so, I told him, I was like, let me think about this for a little bit, kind of get the mindset that this is what I need to do. So, I get that mindset, call him up and say, okay, let's get this scheduled. It was crazy. It's, I go in and it's nuts. Like, how they have you, all sedated and everything. And a lot of times you come out of surgery and you're kind of out of it for, like I remember one of the surgeries I had, I was out for like a day or two because, I was just the medicine and stuff wearing off, being sedated and stuff. But when I came out, they were actually wheeling me back to my room, and I woke up and they're just like, you're all done. You did it. And I remember reaching down and realizing my leg was gone. And I instantly like got sick on the way back to my room. And there was no like, oh, I'm tired. The medicine is making me sleepy. I was awake and alert immediately. It was odd, but it was craziness. I mean,
Do you think that's because you knew what was happening?
Yeah. I realized that I got through the surgery and my leg was gone. I think the reality of that just kind of, I don't know. I just got an upset stomach and just,
No, but I mean, you woke up a lot earlier than most people do after surgery. Do you think it's because your body, your brain did not let you go that far under because you knew what was about to happen?
I don't know. I mean, I before the surgery, my doctor was running late, and I remember even at one point they took me back, and like it was really it was crazy because like I remember, you know, I was worn out because I sit up the whole night because I'm like if I'm not exhausted and I can't
Yeah.
like go to sleep or something, it's going to be harder for me to go through it. So I'm laying in the bed and they take me back and they're like, your doctor's running a little bit behind, but he'll be in here shortly. And they literally, at one point, they asked me if I would like, they got me over by the operating table and was like, can you help us scoot yourself over here on that? I'm like, sure, no problem. You know, but I remember being there and I was so tired. I would doze off and I would kind of wake up and I dozed off. And then I remember them, putting the mask over and saying, take some deep breaths. And then that was it. And then I remember the next time after I woke up from that is when they were actually taking me into the room when they were like, oh, you're all done. And I'm just like reaching down to my leg. And yeah, it was crazy.
See, the reason I said that is think about when I know myself just not having any surgeries, but even
Yeah.
like colonoscopies where they put you out. I know when I
Yeah.
wake up, my brain isn't focused enough. I'm
Mhm.
spending more like 5 minutes trying to figure out where I am, why am I laying here, why don't I remember anything right now? But
Yeah.
yet you woke up right away and remembered that it was gone.
Yeah. I remember that moment. I remember like it's yesterday.
Hmm.
Um, because I mean that's exactly how it was. They were just like, "You're done. We're taking you to your room." And I remember reaching down and realizing it was gone. And I'm like, "I'm gonna be sick," and that's what happened. But I mean, it was so crazy because I mean, the surgery was on. I'm pretty sure it was a Wednesday, and I went home Friday. Um, they came in the following day and took the bandaging off and everything and looked at it to make sure it was looking okay and all this stuff. And I remember I got sick again from that, because yeah, I mean, I guess I wasn't prepared to see that, even though I knew the leg was gone. Um, but then, they came back in like after that, like they Thursday afternoon and evening, they wanted to get me up and kind of sit me in a chair and, kind of get me to where when I come home, then I'm able to kind of get up and sit in a chair and kind of sit up and watch TV, stuff like that and everything. And then they came in on Friday and they were like, we need to make sure you can get around on crutches okay for when we do send you home. And they like literally had to go all like down the hall a little ways. And then I went as far as I could. And I was just like, I can't go any further. I need to go back to the room. So, we turn around, we come back to the room and, like Friday evening, I'm home. They sent me home. Um, yeah, it was a quick process. It seemed.
No wheelchair, just crutches.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they wheeled me out to the car
The
when I was
car, that's
leaving and
right. Yep.
stuff. And that was it. Yeah. Sent me on my
Wow.
way and
Thanks for
yeah.
coming. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. See you later. Yeah, it was, but I mean, it was interesting.
How did your parents
It's
think what was going on?
yeah, my family's been supportive. I mean, they were very supportive. It's like if this is what you feel like you need to do, then we'll be there at the hospital with you, and we'll be there and help you whatever you need help with and everything like that. So, and I think having the support that I had with family and friends, you learn. You sometimes you hear of cases and these different stories of people that they deal with something like that and immediately not long after they drop into some depression or something and they have struggles and stuff from it. And I mean, I've had my struggles, but I mean, it's I don't know. I mean, just with the family and the close friends I've had to support me, I've been fortunate enough to where I haven't gotten into any kind of issues
Yeah.
like that.
But
So I've
you
been
make a
lucky.
choice on that. And I'm sorry, and I'm not going to say I know what you went through, but I know with my IPF, when they told me what I had, And first we looked it up. It said 3 to 5 years, and I was like, "Oh
Mhm.
crap, too short." Okay,
Yeah.
and then they
Yeah.
were like, "Well, it's 15 years." Okay, now with medicine and stuff, and then you get a lung transplant, go another 15.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
I remember mentally saying to myself, "Okay, there ain't shit you can do about it."
Yeah.
Okay, so let no pity parties, no falling into that depression state. We keep going forward. Okay, and like they told
Yeah.
me I had diabetes when I was 40. The first words out of my mouth was, "So now what?" And he
Yeah.
goes, "Well, that's a good attitude." It's like, "Do you want me to cry, bang my feet on the floor and stuff? What do we do?" Okay, let's keep going forward. And it seems
Yeah.
to me like you made that decision that,
Yeah.
okay, this is what I'm going to have to deal with now. So let's go forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always tried to look at it as you have those moments where it really sucks. I mean, and everybody can relate to this, but then you have those moments too where you take a step back and you say it could be a lot worse than what it is. So that's how I try to look at things and say, you know what? This sucks how it is, and I struggle at times, but overall, it could be a whole lot worse than what I have it now.
Jen and I don't want to interrupt and make any of my story, but I had that only happened recently. Um, had some problems with my back recently, and they sent me to an orthopedist. And Jen and I are sitting in the waiting room in Indy, and this guy couldn't be more than like 24 years old,
Mhm.
wheeled in. I mean, completely. It almost looked like a stretcher, but that's how he lives. He can't move his hands. I mean, his legs. He can move his hands and his fingers, but that's it. So
Yeah.
it was some kind of car accident or something. And I turned to her and I said, "I want you to take a picture of that." I'm talking mental picture. She starts reaching for her phone. I was like, "No, put the phone away."
Yeah.
I was like, "A mental picture of this." She goes,
Yeah.
"Why?" I said, "Because in case I forget, anytime I feel sorry for myself, remind me of what I'm looking at right there." Because you're right.
Yeah.
There are people that have it 10 times worse than we do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's hard to think that at times because we
we're
there's
human.
times, I mean, we all deal with a lot with whatever it is that we're dealing with, and
Mhm.
you sometimes kind of lose sight of that and think this is horrible and I don't know how I'm going to get through this or however, but then you do realize that things could be a whole lot worse than what they are.
So after this, you went back to school after this was done? After the
No,
surgery? Okay,
no,
you were
no.
already out of school already.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
This was in 2010 is
Okay.
when this happened, and um like you've been around me. I mean, you've seen I wasn't
Mhm.
wearing the prosthetic leg. Uh, after all this stuff happened, I mean, I've been in it a handful of times, and that's a lot of that's because of the issues I have. The upper part of the leg, they didn't get everything, so there's still circulation issues. I still deal with blood clots. I'm on blood thinners. Probably won't ever get off of blood thinners. Um, I
And I've
still
seen you in pain from it.
Yeah, I still deal with this on
Mhm.
almost a daily basis. I mean that it's an issue, and it's hard for me to get into a prosthetic leg and stay in it. So I'm almost every time somebody sees me, I'm always on crutches. Um,
And you know
yeah,
what? When I think about it, I don't know if I remember ever seeing you in a prosthetic leg. In all
yeah,
the 10, 13 years I've known you, I don't remember ever seeing you in a prosthetic leg. I mean, it doesn't,
yeah,
that would have stood out to me, I guess, at
hmm
some point, and I just never remember that. So,
yeah,
okay, so you went to work, and I think people will find that a little interesting when you went to work because you were able to work for a while.
yeah, yeah. It was crazy with just trying to deal with pain and swelling and just all the stuff I had to deal with. It was hard. I mean, and even now, I mean, I might sit here now and be okay. My leg might not be swollen, might not be hurting for a little bit or something, but 2 minutes from now, I could be, you might see me fidgeting around saying,
Mhm.
I'm dealing with pain and swelling and it's hurting me and all that stuff. I mean, it's so unpredictable. I mean, I might, and even it was like this when I was growing up too. I mean, even like I've mentioned in the book, there'd be times I'd be okay for a while. And then, even as a kid, I could go out, maybe ride a bicycle or something for a little bit, come back in, I go to bed, everything's fine. I literally get up the next morning and I remember having times where I would have to crawl, like literally put my hands down on the floor and then crawl onto the floor just to go to the bathroom and to come back and try to get up into bed because I couldn't get up and walk on it.
And we
It,
saw
it
that in the documentary that we'll talk about later, where you
yeah,
actually climbed up a lot on your hands, using your hands. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. There's a lot of interesting stuff to talk
yeah,
about with with
yeah.
with
Well, we
the
get to
with
there.
that.
Yeah. Well, I say I was trying to
Yeah,
set the stage so people
yeah,
understood. Okay, a little bit
mm,
about it here. Now, I know we won't
yeah.
go too deep into, but you got married at one point too.
I did. Yes. Yep.
Hmm.
Yep.
And you were going to buy a house. Well, you think you did buy a house, did you?
Yeah. Yeah. We did. Yeah.
But
Hmm.
the reason I remember that is the next words right after that was you thought about starting the Lost Limbs Foundation and found
Yes.
how hard it was.
Yes. It was not easy at all. um. You know. I mean, yeah, it's a whole lot of work. It's a ton of stress. Um. Dealing with the nonprofit side of things and but I mean, and I think that's another thing that helped me with things. One, I knew starting it, we could help kids that were going through what I went through, and then on top of it, it's like I was even talking to my sister before and was telling her it's been kind of a crutch for me because I mean it's helped in a lot of different ways for me personally with not only just being able to help the kids and stuff that we've helped, but um, yeah, I
Yeah,
mean
we're
it's
going to get into Lost Limbs
yeah,
because I was showing him. I mean, I came prepared tonight wearing my Lost Limbs shirt.
and
Wait, wait,
here I am wearing
but
Captain
yeah,
America.
well, yeah, I got to do this because it got to have it up higher so people can actually see it. Yeah, with the Lost Limbs, it's as I had told Mike, we're preparing Jen and I to move, my wife and myself, and we were cleaning some of the shirts down off the shelves, and I came across the Lost Limbs shirt. I was
Mm.
like, "Oh, give me that." She goes, "What?" I was like, "That's got to go in my drawer." So I remember Thursday morning to put that on as I'm getting dressed because we need that for the show today. Um, you know, yours is the type of story that I don't think our listeners can put themselves in your shoes. Sorry, and I don't mean that likewise, but to put themselves in your situation where say I can understand. You can understand that. I'm sorry, unless you've lost a limb, I can't sit here and say I understand that. I have no clue. Okay, what that's like, and I'm not even going to pretend that I know what it's like. Yet you still keep that smile on your face. And everyone we talk to, I mean, I can even remember talking to Chip Coffey at
Mm.
one of his coffee talks. And I want to say, was it Scarefest? I'm
Hmm.
not sure. And I think your sister and your mom were sitting there with you. And he went off on a 5-minute rant about you. See, that's the smile I'm talking about. So, and everyone, if you say anyone that's met you, like even talking to Jim and Scott, who I talk to all the time,
Hmm.
you can hear the smile come on their face when they talk about you. Has it been because of like your sister's support, your mom? Because your sister basically, she does all the bookings. I know with the Rhodes Hotel with you.
She does, yeah.
She's
She
always
handles all the
there
bookings, yeah.
every con with you for the Lost Limbs Foundation as well.
Yeah,
Crystal's
yeah,
somewhere inside the building.
yep. And even my parents try to go whenever they can too.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I mean,
Yes, I've
it's
met your mom. I think I've met
mhm.
your mom on more than one occasion.
Yeah,
Usually we run into each other a lot at these events.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we just, and that's what it is. If we watch that opening film, if we were
Hmm.
watching there, and you saw like the Booth brothers, who we were talking about, Chris and Phil. There was Chip was in there. There
Hmm.
was Grant that was there.
Yeah,
I know you've been with Jason, Steve, Tango, Joe Chin, all these people. I mean, they
yeah,
all know who you are, and they're all hovered around you and Robin there, around the Scooby Mobile there. But what
yeah.
am I?
Mr. Machine. Yeah,
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I was drawing a blank on the name of it there, but yeah. So I mean, you've had such support around you.
yeah.
What I want to, before I go off onto it, there's a question I had here.
Hmm.
Um, it says in the fourth grade you were on the basketball team, but
Attempted.
if and when you, yeah, you said most games you watched it from the bench, but
Yeah,
if and when you played, you went home in extreme pain.
yeah,
And
yeah.
now kids are cruel. How did the kids, as well as the coaches, handle your situation?
Most of the time, I had a lot of good friends in school that, they didn't think anything of it. I mean, they treated me like me. There wasn't ever, luckily, I never had anybody, making fun of my issue or giving me a hard time about it or anything like that. But, I mean, I did have the one, there was an instance that, I did have to miss gym class quite often for a while. And I mean, I was failed because I didn't make it. And I don't think they realized to what extent, of the things that I was dealing with my leg and stuff at the time. But yeah, I'm like,
Yeah, because I
I
read
mean,
that you had failed PE, and my first thought was,
mhm,
"They fucking kidding me?"
mhm,
That's like, oh, they blind or what? Okay, so but
yeah,
it was a different time than it is.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, things have changed so much. Yeah, for sure.
Um, my question, and we
Mhm.
covered a little bit of it about you being a strong person. Okay, you've dealt with work, marriage, purchasing a home, starting a corporation or an organization. You always seem to have great hopes and desires. You really do. But I don't mean sometimes I would sometimes think, why me? Like you said, even with yourself, every once in a while, there's that inner dark demon that says, why me? Okay,
Yeah,
what one thing do you attribute your strength to?
I think just the positivity that I get from family and friends, that's helped me tons. I mean, just having that support, and what, going back to like what you were saying earlier, I think people can kind of relate to what someone's going through, but and then there's another sense that they kind of don't have much of an idea about it, if that makes any sense. I mean, because if you think about the situation, you kind of have an idea, I guess, how it would be. And, um, I mean, but I have those times that, and we all do, but I mean, I've had those times that, I have to make those phone calls and talk about how, I might be struggling, so, over this or that or whatever. And it could pertain toward my leg or whatever the situation is. And, I've always had that support, and I bounce right back from it. But I mean, there's those moments where we struggle, and luckily I've always bounced back, and and it's like, I don't know, we have probably all had those moments to where we don't feel 100% that we might be struggling. Like I might have a bad day with my leg, or I might be in pain, or it's swollen and it's hard for me to move around a lot. So, or however the case is, but going back to that, like what another thing you were saying earlier, I try not to let that show. I try not to, be
Mhm.
like the person to bring other people down. It's like because I'm dealing with whatever. So I try to push that stuff to the side and just say, let's have a good time with whatever, and kind of hide it. And just
If
yeah,
you
just
have good people around you, um, I mean, besides my wife, I have a friend,
mhm,
Elvin Potter, who one of my paranormal investigators. You probably even met him at when we came to the roads the last time, and
yeah,
he knows everything I'm going through. Okay, and there's never like even carrying equipment in. I'm one of those that male thing that move out of the way. Let me carry that, and I can't do
mhm,
that anymore. I you
yeah,
can imagine here in the house, we're having to pack up stuff and carry boxes. Jen's having to do a lot of that. But she doesn't even put on like a bad face about it because she
mhm,
understands that stuff. And I guess as long as you're surrounded by people that are going to, they know what you're going through. They
yeah,
don't need to mention it. They don't say, "Oh, I know you're on oxygen, so sit down." It's more like, "Yeah, we'll get those. Don't worry about it."
yeah,
It's and that's I know in your case, like if you can't walk, just have a seat. We'll, let us take care of
yeah,
that. Yeah,
yeah,
and
yep,
that's really what it's a segue into my next question, which was good. And it was about
mhm,
the Lost Limbs Foundation. Okay, we talked about your sister Crystal, talked about mom, dad, everything.
mhm,
But there's somebody else that lately, or at least I've seen lately, who has been a big powerhouse. Okay, and you do a podcast with them on top of that, and his name is Robin Terry. Okay, you knew as soon as I
yes.
started to say that there
Oh
was someone
yeah,
else, you
oh
knew
yeah, I
where I
knew
was
exactly.
going.
Yep,
Tell
I
us
knew
how
exactly.
you got hooked up with him.
Yeah, Robin. It's what happened is we did a charity event. This was up north. This was in Monticello, I think, is where we did this one, and we had some different guests out there. And someone told me, they're like, "Hey, I know this guy has a mystery machine. I could probably get him to come out and be there and bring the mystery machine out and help with raising money and stuff." And I'm just like, "That'd be great. That'd be awesome." So Robin comes out, we meet there, and like here we are. But I mean, he was, yeah, it was really cool getting to meet and talk, and seeing the mystery machine and stuff. And we just stayed in touch after that. And now we have an awesome friendship. I mean, even him and Norma, his wife, they were over. They came over to my parents' house for Thanksgiving, so we all hung out and got to spend time and hang out and all that stuff. But I mean, he's multiple times, a year. I mean, he'll come out and bring the Mystery Machine out and stuff, and do fundraisers that will help the charity and stuff in some way, shape, or form. And I mean, those guys have been awesome. I mean, huge support for the charity. And again, going, it's that support group that
Yep.
that I have with close family and friends. That's been so helpful to me. That's helped me make things keep that positive outlook.
See, I've met Robin a number of times, and yes, he's an outstanding person. And
Hmm.
another good friend of his is Daryl Wisman, and so
Yeah,
I know through all of them there, they're just great people. I mean,
yeah,
Robin, I've never seen anything but above class with
hmm,
them whenever I've seen them. He's a man who'll talk to you. He never talks down to anybody. And, I mean, come on, anyone that's gone up to Ashmore Estates knows, he's got a really great location there.
yeah,
People travel to a lot. I think we've been there, I want to say twice,
hmm.
and also up to the mansion that he's part of,
Oh
um,
yeah, Cheney Mansion.
Cheney
Yeah,
Mansion.
yeah,
Yes.
hmm, yeah,
Yeah. because I remember we couldn't get our cameras work off of a hotspot on your phone, and we couldn't get signals in certain rooms.
Mm.
So we had to keep moving cameras around so we could get a signal to do it and stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was another really, really great place that's there. So
Yeah.
how did the podcast Paranormal Chat come about?
You know, what first happened? Sorry, excuse me. So
Okay.
what first happened was I started doing a podcast where just people just calling in and we'd talk. I'd have different guests and stuff on, and then it came up to a week where I couldn't do it, and if I remember right, this is how this happened and how things kind of started. Sorry, but Robin was like, "I can fill in for you." I was like, "Okay, that would be great." So he fills in for me, and then like here and there when I can't do it, I'll fill in for you, no big deal. And I got to the point we started talking, and it's just like, why don't we do something together? So then we just kind of started doing things together, and then we quit for a while. And then we were just like, well, when we go back, let's do this to where people can watch. And then the guests that we have on, then they can see the guests and then come on like into the, because I mean, when people are calling in, nobody can ask questions or anything. It's like, well, we do this, people can pop in and ask questions to whoever from TV or, the TV shows or whatever we have on. So, and here we are.
Things have changed. When we first started doing Jen and I, this show, Your Life Matters, with Jen and Steve, we had 78,000 people a day listening to us across the country. Or I shouldn't
Yeah.
say across the country, around the world that were listening to us. But again, it was phone. Everything was working around audio. That's all it was. And she started doing a podcast for a while with the psychic mediumship. And Scotty wanted us on the show, Scotty Rourke, and on a couple of shows. And I was like, I'm retired now. Okay, the IPF, I had to retire. It's like, that might be a lot of fun to go back to that. And she was like, I'm not doing another show with you. You're too pushy. And I was like, well, okay. I didn't think I'd ask you. No, I wanted her to show, but she didn't want to do it. But she did join me last week for a show and stuff. It's so different because you have to now get dressed, and
Yeah.
don't laugh, okay? I've done. There was an interview we did with somebody. The guy, I asked one question, and for 52 minutes, he did not stop talking.
Oh, wow.
So we were like, questions? Yeah. So what? Okay, who needs questions? We were actually playing tic-tac-toe off of a dry eraser board while he was talking. We're like, yep, and just went back, and you can't play that game anymore because people actually go to see you. So
Yeah.
let's move forward then. Lost Limbs now owns the Rhodes Hotel.
Yes.
How did that come about?
Again, Robin. Gail was looking to sell, and she was talking to Robin and said that if you know anyone interested, let her know and all this. And then at some point, Robin contacted me and was like, "What do you think about the charity owning Rhodes Hotel?" And I'm like, "Well, that would be cool, but one, I don't have the money, and two, if we did, that's kids we could help. So cool idea, but I'm out." He's like, "It's not what I was asking you." It's like, okay, so yeah, so I'm like, all right, I'm listening. He's like, well, what if you had someone front the money, and it was a no interest loan, and I get my money back whenever I get my money back, and I was just like, all right, let's do it, because he's like, this is, this would help. And I'm like, yeah, let's do that. So, yeah, so we went ahead and we went through with that. And this is the back wall of the hotel.
But it's not the bookcase. you come through.
No, yeah, I'm like back in the main back
Yes, you're
now.
back, really in the
Yes,
back. Is there?
yes,
And for anyone that's never been there, I'm trying to remember the town it's in Indiana.
Atlanta,
Atlanta,
Atlanta.
correct. Okay.
Hmm.
And I can tell you, we've been there twice. We were there once before Mike had it and once after Mike had it. And I can tell you that both times it did not disappoint at all. And if somebody's
Good.
going up and they want to do two different investigations, heck, around the corner, there's another place
Yes,
from you.
yes, yep. 2 houses down.
Yes, exactly. Because that's
Yes.
what we did that weekend. We did the
Hmm.
Friday night and then we did you guys on a Saturday night. And I mean, I can take the evidence that we got was amazing both
Good,
times that we were there.
good.
So, to any paranormal person, that's a place they need to go to.
Hmm.
Now, before I go into your paranormal, you actually, what was it, a year or two, a couple of years ago? I get old, so it seems like last year, but
Hmm.
I'm sure it was about three years ago, where you were on Ghost Hunters
I
when Grant
was.
was on Ghost Hunters.
Yes.
Tell us a little
Yep.
bit about. I mean, I remember. I just tell you this. I did not know you were going to be on. And sorry, guys. Okay, I'm friends with Jason Grant. Or I don't watch some of the shows. Okay, but that
Yeah.
night, for some reason, the show was on, and I sat
Mhm.
and watched. And he said, "Yeah, we're going to bring in." I have a friend of mine, Mike Couch. I was like, "What?" Okay,
Yeah. It's
so go
like,
ahead and
oh, what?
explain.
Yeah. With Ghost Hunters, the way that came about was Grant sent me a message and was like, we've been friends for quite a while. He knows my leg situation and
Mhm.
all that. He sends me a message, is like, hey, what are you doing next week? And I'm like, nothing. Why? And he's like, well, so then he tells me that, Duff Green Mansion, which is where they were filming at, he was just like, well, uh, it's got a history of they used one of the rooms, like the Dixie Suite. They were used it as a hospital room to do amputations for soldiers. So he was like, I'd like to bring you in because I think you could relate more to, you might be able to get activity
Right. The
that we
spirit.
might not be able to get. Yeah,
Mhm.
So for a lot of, of course, anybody that's paying, likes watching now or watches this later, basically, I was a trigger object. Uh, yeah,
No
so
battery needed, right?
yeah, no battery needed. So yeah, so I mean, and I was all for it because I thought it would be interesting to go in because maybe I could get some evidence and be more relatable and get something more that they might not be able to get.
Hmm.
With it just being them, because and a lot of stuff that got cut out. I mean, I had times I'd sit in the room and I would say, you know what, I can relate to this. I lost my leg, at one time, and you see me, I'm on crutches, which is probably how you were, while you were here. You were on crutches after your amputation and stuff, and I was trying to just be relatable and just try to talk in like a conversation in hopes that we would get some kind of a response and stuff. And but it was interesting to get to do that.
See,
But
it's not that
yeah,
far fetched because, in paranormal, we do that with, if it likes women, it doesn't like talking to
yeah.
men, only likes communicating with women, you put the women in the room. It's
Hmm.
not really even a trigger object, it's a relatable object to the people that
Yes,
are there. Yeah. And that was
yes.
actually an interesting idea because I don't know if I would have
Mhm.
thought of that, of doing
Yeah,
that's actually, yeah, that's not bad thought at all on their part.
yeah, yeah. And it was interesting for me too, because I mean that's the first time I really kind of got to do like an approach like that. I mean, because like, let's face it, like here, I don't know of any kind of amputee stories or
Right.
anything here. So it's not like I can go in there and be like, oh, I can relate to you and what you might have dealt with when you had your amputation and stuff, because there's not any kind of stories that we know of, to my knowledge, of anything like that here. So yeah, it was just a cool opportunity to be a part of it.
How long have you been doing the paranormal?
Oh gosh.
And what got you into it?
I started helping out at Waverly in like 2006, I believe, if I remember right. But basically, what happened, um, I had a friend that didn't live too far away at the time, and we were watching movies. It got late, and they were just like, I got an extra room. I know it's not that far of a drive home, but it's late. You're probably tired. Just crash out in this extra room that I have and then go home in the morning. I'm just like, all right. You know how sometimes you wake up and you're kind of like this for like 20 minutes trying to wake up and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
then you have those moments you're just like, I'm alert. Um, I woke up and I was alert and I see a little girl at the side of the bed. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. So I'm like this, for just like a split second. I'm just kind of like, wait. And I look back and she's gone. So it was weird to me. So I didn't say anything. I just got up the next morning and I was getting ready to go home. And they're like, you're acting weird. And I'm like, I'm good. And they're like, did you see the little girl? And I'm like, thanks for telling me this sooner. Like, yeah, thanks for waiting to like inform me about this little girl now.
They didn't want to influence you, you know?
Yeah, I guess not. But yeah, so I mean, after that, I just curiosity, questions, all that. You know how it goes. Like you have that experience or whatever, and you're just like, what happens to us?
See, for me, it's been 45 years that I've been
Yeah.
doing this because that happened to me when I was 17, where I saw a full-bodied apparition walk right
Hmm.
past me. Someone I knew, and I forgot for a second that they had passed, and I said
Hmm.
hello to the person he passed, and I'm sitting there, I was playing the piano, I was like, huh? He's dead, and turned around and he was gone. And that was it. From that day
Wow.
forward, I never stopped. Because you're right, when
Yeah.
you see something for the first time, I left. What did you do at Waverly Hills?
First, I just volunteered to just
Mm-hmm.
kind of help out with some of the 2 hour tours and stuff that was going on. And then over time, it got to the point once I learned, the history and the paranormal side, which is, it's been so long since I've been there now. I probably couldn't be able to take you on a tour right now. But I mean, I just, I learned everything there was really, to learn with a lot of the stuff that's going on
How much
there.
did
And
you see when you were there?
I've had interesting stuff there. Because I mean, eventually at one point I was asked to start doing to the private and the public investigations that was
Mm-hmm.
going on there. So I mean, even like for a couple of seasons, if you went down there that year during the season, you got me. And on the weekends, if you did the public investigations, you either had me or another guide. I mean, but I
Right.
was there. But I mean, I had times that I'd be I would let people out at the end of the night, and then I have to go back in, lock up, going floor to floor. Me walking down the hallway, and I just hear my name plain as day, and I'd like at times I'd forget, and I'd respond, and I'm looking, I'd stop, and I'd be like, I'm the only one in the building. It's like this shouldn't be happening. Um,
That is for years, I didn't want to go because the
yeah.
first question out of, I call it the lay people that are not investigators, oh, have you ever been to Waverly Hills? And my answer is no, no. Okay,
Mm,
because ghosts don't, what do you think every single night they just perform on command? It's like,
yeah.
no. And then finally, Elvin and Jen and started talking, we really want to go.
Hmm.
And I'm like, well, don't let me stop you. It was like, no, it's like, we really got to go. So we got, the reservation. And I have to say, I wasn't unimpressed. I was kind of impressed about the things that, Death Tunnel and a few other
Hmm.
places were really interesting. There were some very interesting things that took place We heard our name throughout the night. I mean, I sat in the hallway of what they're renovating now. I guess it's first floor or something in the back,
Mhm.
and I was hearing it sounded like people being wheeled in gurneys down the hall right
Yeah.
behind me. I mean, I'd jump
Mm.
up. That's how loud it sounded, and there was no one there. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. Okay, sorry I
Mhm.
wouldn't come earlier, but with the cost, you're lucky I came at all. So,
Yeah.
but now I guess that leads us into we're talking about TV, but you were also location manager for what was it? Was it the attached? I think
The
it was.
attached. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. The Booth Brothers. Huh?
right. Yeah, they
Yeah.
seem to come around everywhere. No,
Yeah.
but what was that all about?
Yeah. So they came here to film a little bit, and what happened? What ended up being on the attached was we kept people were having experiences with the little girl here, and at one point when they were here, we got the little girl's voice, and
Mhm.
you can hear her plain as day say "Goody."
Yeah, I've seen the movie.
Yes, and and so then about the picture that we have in the other parlor room.
Hmm.
Um, it's like, well, look at the names on the picture because I had no idea who this little girl is, and really, in reality, I mean, still don't know who she is, but we kind of have possible ideas now because when we looked at the picture that's in there with the people that's sitting on the front porch there from the early 1900s, one of the ladies' names on there, her last name was Goody Kuntz. So now it's like we kind of questions like, well, was she calling to this lady because she's family or she knows her in some way? Um, if that might be what it is, but I'm still like trying to figure out who she is. But I mean, it's kind of interesting and a wild coincidence that she says Goody, and and here we have somebody here that's pictured on that picture on on the front porch, and her last name
Well,
happens to be Goody Kuntz.
that's good validation of the EVP, but
Yeah,
you
yep.
know, when
So
you can
yeah, so
validate it
then,
to somebody or
mhm,
something from the property, yeah.
yeah, yep, yep. So then, yeah, of course they were like, well, we want to use this and put it in the attached, and of course I'm like, yeah, let's do it. That's all I'm all about it. So yeah, that's the whole location manager for the attached was just getting that bit of stuff that we had and using it
They're great
for the
guys.
documentary.
I kid about Chris
Yeah.
a lot, okay? But I've known Chris a long time.
Hmm.
And he's always been a good friend and stuff to me.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
he looks out for me. He still asks every once in a while on Facebook how I'm feeling and stuff. We had a long talk. I think it was outside of Keith Age's last mid whatever it was, Mid America. I think was what
Hmm.
that place was called there. And we had a good long talk. We were there. Actually, he was in the booth right behind us. So you only have that
Hmm.
curtain in
Oh
between.
yeah.
And
It's
I'd
just
be
like
sitting there. No, that's he would sit there, and I couldn't
Mhm.
see on the other side. I mean, I'd have someone, at the thing, and he'd stick his arm between the curtain. Okay, and I'd be sitting there relaxing or talking to
Mhm.
a person. All of a sudden, he'd like grab my side, which would make me jump like about 5 feet.
Yeah.
But it was just Chris. I mean, that we
Yeah.
we had a lot of time with that. Um, and you see, that's what I always loved, the Scooby Mobile. That was what I was thinking
Yes.
of what it was called. And but now you got competition from Scotty because he brings his Ecto to all of those
Yeah.
as
That's
well.
pretty cool too.
Yeah. What's it like? I know you know Scotty. Scotty's been on
Mhm.
the show. What's it like dealing with Scotty Rourke?
He's awesome. Well, I've known him for quite a while, and I mean, it's always we don't get to see each other that often, but when we do, it's nice to kind of catch up and just get to talk and stuff. And because you know how it is at these cons and stuff. I mean, even when you do get to see each other there, you don't get much time. I mean, but it's you
Unless you get
value.
Friday or Saturday night to run out to dinner. with people. That's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you're able to do that, like some, but then there's times that you can't because there's these after
Mhm.
con like shuts down for the night. There's the other activities that's going on, and it's kind of hard to do it. But I mean, it's so fun to get to catch up and stuff. And yeah, I saw him. Let's see, when was the last time I saw him? It's been a little while now.
Is it in Fort Wayne?
Um, Might have been. I know I saw him in Minnesota at one of the events there. I know I did see him there. It might have been Fort Wayne, maybe.
Because we were all at Fort Wayne, so it might
It
have
might
been.
have been Fort Wayne. Yeah, it might have been the last time, maybe.
That was the first
Yeah.
time I had met Destination Truth, their show, and that
Oh,
Friday,
you mean Dakota and them?
yeah,
Yeah.
Dakota and them.
Hmm.
Now that Friday, when we were setting
Hmm.
up, Chelsea goes walking by me, and I said hello because I remember faces, not names and stuff. And as I get older, it takes me longer to remember where do I know that person from. And I said
Hmm.
hello, and she said hello, and I like looked back, and she laughed. She was watching because she realized that okay, he knows who I am, but doesn't know who I am. And about an hour or two later, we had set up the booth, and we were going to go out to dinner, and they're standing at their booth, Jason and Steve and Tango, where they're two talking to them,
Hmm.
and they're standing there, the three of them, and they're talking to the three of them, and then in front of, if you remember, had that huge banner that went up
Yes.
of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so I start to go walking, and I see them talking, and I look up at the banner, and now I look back down, and
Yeah.
she's hysterical laughing, and she goes, "Figured it out now, didn't you?" It's like,
That's
yes, I
funny.
did. Okay, but I mean, it's one of the great things. You're right. We don't all get out a lot when we're at those
Yeah.
events, which is a shame because we work hard all day long. Be nice to blow off some steam, afterwards. I know
Yeah.
at that event we had Scotty was with us,
Mm.
um, Dan Allen that owns Randolph County Infirmary with
Mhm.
his brother Richard, who I never thought there was a twin brother. I always thought they were pulling my leg, but there actually is two of them.
Yeah. Yep.
We had a whole bunch of people that came out to eat with us. Went to some pizza place. Scott Tepperman sent us there. He was
Okay.
supposed to come with us, but him and Tim took off. Tim Miley took off
Mm.
to the place, and all of a sudden we were like, "What the heck with him? We need to go and eat." So
Yeah.
he mentioned that pizza place, and it was really good. And it's great to hang out with people and stuff. You meet all these celebrities, but then that's going to take me into exactly. Look at that; it was perfect. The segue at 9 o'clock. How did? When was the first time you met Nick Ruff? Do you remember?
I think the first time was at Waverly Hills, I think.
Okay.
And then, I met him again at Scarefest. And you know what? He probably doesn't even remember any of this. That's been so long ago. Um, yeah, but I mean, we met. That was the first two encounters, and then um, I can't remember. I think it was when Nick Groff tour started with with
We went on
Lee
his
and
own.
Jennifer and Jeff and them, like we're setting these up with Nick, to do those at different locations. And um, I think it was that when we kind of really just started talking more. But then what what really kind of changed things a little bit more is at one point I had there was a kid at Boston Children's Hospital I was going to go meet, and I was sending messages back and forth to Nick, and I told him I'm going to be out in your area because he's from the East Coast, and
Mhm.
he's like, oh, what's going on? And I told him, I was coming out to meet a kid, and when I was coming out, and he's just like, at that time he was filming. I think it was Ghost of Shepherdstown. He was filming, and he's like, well, if I'm back home, I'll come out and I'll go with you and support stuff. And I'm like, that'd be great. Um, I don't think I even heard anything from him until like the night before. I'm at the hotel in Boston, and then he just sends me this message. He's just like, "So when are you going? What time are you going tomorrow?" And all this stuff. And I'm like, I was like, "Are you home?" And he's just like, "Yeah." He's like, "I'll meet you." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." So we'll go. And like, I got to tell this funny story. Like, just like, I know I'm like jumping off to this, like,
No,
but it kind of goes along with the whole Boston, because it happened in Boston, at Children's Hospital. Like, yeah, of all, like, but when we went, we got there, and he was like, let's do, like, I don't know, Instagram or Facebook Live or something. But he's like, we'll do something, encourage people to make donations and stuff like that. And he's telling everybody, he's like, I'm gonna make a donation myself too. And so we wrapped up with all that stuff, and we went over to this one area, and like, like the heating, like the heaters and stuff they have, and they got those vents.
yes.
We walk over by one of those, they sit kind of low. We get over by one of those, and then he gets his credit card, debit card, whatever out, and he's like, I want to make a donation. We do that. We get over by that vent. He
Ooh.
drops his card in the vent, and like, you could just see it in the vent. And he's just like, I can't believe I did that. And he's like, would you watch the vent while I go find like a maintenance guy? So I'm like, sure, and then like while he's coming back, then people are stopping him because they realize Nick Groff's in the hospital. So like stopping him, asking him to take pictures. And Nick, being Nick, he's like, sure. So he's like stopping and taking pictures as he's working his way closer back to the vent, to where the vent is, to get his card. But yeah, he eventually got his card back. But yeah, but that was just like a funny little story I just wanted to add in there. But but yeah, I mean, we met, and then afterwards we went and had lunch and everything before I came back home. And I think that's where things kind of changed, because we had all these other times, like what we said a minute ago, with cons, you don't get that much time. We actually had time to sit down. We had lunch, and we got to really talk. And I think he learned more of what I was about and what I was doing and everything. And then it just changed. We just became good friends since then.
Now I'm going to be the one jumping around a little bit. I
Mhm.
realized we started talking and then I glossed right past it. Probably one of the most important things was the Lost Limbs Foundation itself, because we really didn't go into what the Lost Limbs Foundation does. And I know
Yeah.
that I can't hear my wife, but I guarantee you she's listening down there. She's like, at one point, when is he going to ask him? Okay. So explain to me what the Lost Limbs, well, not to me, but explain to the audience what the Lost Limbs Foundation actually does.
Yes. So we help amputee kids that can't afford prosthetics. We help them be able to get the prosthetics that they need. So whenever people have made donations and stuff like that, or like, um, we use that to be able to help the next kid that we've helped. And we've helped kids. We've had a few that have lost legs from meningitis. There was one kid that actually needed a prosthetic eye. He was a younger boy that had, he was in need of a new one, and we found out about that, and learned that he needed it. And actually, the family was just like, we're trying to do a fundraiser, and this is, how much we need, how much it's going to cost. And it's like, well, how much, how much difference do you need? And we're like, well, we haven't raised any of it yet. So I'm like, so you don't know how the fundraiser is going to do, how it's going to go. And they're like, well, we haven't done anything yet. And it's like, well, we got you covered. So yeah, so we met with them, and we took care of it, and then he was able to get it. I don't know. I think it took him a couple of weeks or so, but it looked. I mean, it looked real. I mean, like, it's amazing what they can do
Mm-hmm.
with technology now. With the things that's available now. I mean, compared to what it used to be.
In the
Um,
past, it used to be like a ping pong ball with a magic marker.
Yeah. I mean, and now it's like you get, I don't know if it's a glass. I don't know what,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Yeah. I mean, but I mean, it looks it looks real. It's crazy, like what they can do now. I mean, and not just that, but I mean, there's like prosthetic legs that, like, there's this one called a genium. I think that's the name of it, but it's like, like with me, the one that I have, what I've said that I can't stay in very
Mhm.
much. Um, when I step up, I have to bring that leg up, and then I have to go up with this leg, and then that
Right.
one again. This one you can walk step over step because it's got this mechanism with the hydraulics and, like, the way it'll lock into place. You can actually use it and walk up steps like you normally would. It's just
Wow.
nuts.
See, you said something. I don't remember if it was on the website. Probably was on the website. I don't remember, but something about the sockets for kids changes. See, I
Yes.
don't think a lot of us realize that. We think, okay, well, height wise, obviously, a kid
Hmm.
goes bigger. It's not like a table you can stretch the leg out, but they actually, even if they don't grow, sometimes the sockets change.
Yeah. Yeah. I compare it to like how kids grow out of their shoes.
Hmm.
I mean, these sockets, like for me, when I had the socket made, that holds my leg on, um, they always tell me, they're like, if you gain weight or you lose weight, it's going to change. They're custom made. You're going to have to come back and we're going to have to make another one. With kids, the average on a lot of them has been like around $5,000 or so. So imagine, a $5,000 shoe, like type situation that you might have to replace like a couple of times a year, or maybe even more, depending on growth spurts. So it can get quite expensive.
See, I don't think people realize. I know I worked in the medical field for a while, so I spoke to a patient once who was telling me about prices of prosthetics, but I don't think people realize if
Hmm.
you don't mind, let's say the leg that you use on that rare occasion when Steve isn't around, the leg that you
Yeah.
use, okay, and I've seen pictures of it and stuff.
Hmm.
Ballpark, what does that run for?
About 70,000.
Wow.
There's some of
Almost
them
like
that can
buying a
even go
house.
up to 100.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing about it, it's like mine, you have to charge at night, because it's got a microprocessor. It has hydraulics.
Hmm.
Uh, the one of the funny things is, one time when I went in, they were telling me, they're like, "Oh, the knee is like $28,000 alone," and I'm like, "What?" And I'm like, "Why?" And they're like, "Well, it's got a microprocessor in it. It learns your patterns on how you walk and everything." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, 28 grand because of that microprocessor?" Yeah, pretty much. And I'm like, "Okay, I could probably go to Staples, buy a $300 laptop that's probably got the same microprocessor in it, but yet it's 28 grand because somebody needs it to be able to walk and stuff." And then, of course, there's like crickets in the room after that. And it's like, there's no response because I'm right. That's how it is.
Supply and demand.
And it is. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's exactly how it is. Sad, but that's the truth.
I take a pill. It's actually the box for it's called OFEV,
Mhm.
and we can get it in Mexico for $400 a month. The price here in the States is 10,000 a month for the exact same drug.
Jeez.
So yeah, I get it. It's cash in. There's only one other drug, and it's not as
God.
effective as this one is. So they have a way of milking you over, okay, because they know
Yeah.
what it's worth to you. And you're right,
Yeah.
it's probably no different than the other one, but some guy wrote a program for it, and
Yeah.
that program, he's making his money back on the
Yeah.
program.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I tell you with the drugs. The drugs are the same thing. Well, it funds the research that we do
Yeah.
for it to make it better.
Hmm.
Whether it's right or not, it's not fair to people who can't afford it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's one of the things when I saw and read about lost limbs back when we met you. It was like, okay, it's this is for children.
Hmm.
Children don't have to say, okay, well, you want to work a second job for this. Parents are probably
Yeah.
already doing that. And
Hmm.
with the economy now, it's got to be getting worse. You got to be getting more
Mhm.
requests. Am I correct?
Yeah,
Or
it's definitely a lot worse. I mean, as COVID changed a lot of stuff.
COVID changed the world, as we
Yeah,
know.
exactly. It did. Yeah, it did.
I always laughed. They talked about politics, but the Great Reset. I think COVID was the reset. It
Hmm.
was the first button of that reset. It changed everything for everyone.
Yeah.
And I still see it today. Where was I this afternoon? Um, it was in Walmart, and she was looking for someone at the customer service desk. You imagine that, no one there. And I was watching a
Yeah.
gentleman that was working the self checkout line,
Mm.
helping people, and he was sitting there wearing a mask and everything else. And it's like, really? At this point, I mean, it's tough enough. I go into hospitals and doctors, and I got to put the mask on. Yeah, I leave it in the car because that's the only time I need it is going in for a doctor's appointment or giving a
Yeah.
blood test in the hospital and stuff. So it's a sad state we're in. So okay, so what is the website for Lost Limbs?
It's lostlimbsfoundation.org.
Okay, and I
Mhm.
will have that in the thing underneath for those who want to watch. Um, so now we're going to take a big leap forward or back wherever we were, but we're
Yeah.
talking about Mount Washington. Was that something you
Yes.
always wanted to do?
No. No, it was not. That happened because originally this wasn't even going to be a show. What
It was just a
how that
fundraiser, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, kind of. It was more so a thing for me. If I ever had a kid come up and say I can't do this, it's like, how do you know you can't until you try?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, have you tried? No. Well, you should try before you say I can't do it. Uh, so I told Nick I wanted to do something crazy that if I was able to pull it off, then I can say, the kid ever approached me and said, "Well, I can't do this." And it's like, "Well, did you see this that I did?" Yeah. Well, if I can
Yeah.
do that, there's nothing in this world that you wouldn't be able to do. That was the whole idea of doing it. So, and of course, Nick was like, "Why don't we climb Mount Washington?" So I'm
Sure,
like,
why not?
"Okay." I was like, "Yeah, all right, let's climb a mountain. We'll do that." And then if I pull that off, then I can tell the kids, be like, "Hey, I can climb a mountain. You can do anything." So, and this was one of those cases where I took the prosthetic leg because the intentions were to use the leg to climb the mountain. But the night before, we go to, a lot of people in the paranormal have heard of Mount Washington, the Omnia Hotel there, which is, got the history of being haunted. We went there and had dinner. And when we got up and we started to leave, I would take a step and you hear like a tss, tss, and I'm like, what is that? And I take another step and I'm like, my leg is not holding, it's not holding suction.
Pressure, yeah.
And I'm like, great. So I'm like, this is not good because the leg is basically trying to come off. That socket is working its way off of my leg. And when I'm taking that step, it's pressing my leg back into it. I'm like, that's not good. That could be dangerous on the side of a mountain. If that, especially if that thing starts slipping off, because it's easy to lose your balance and stuff as it is, but makes it even harder with that. But um, so I was racking my brain on how I can figure out how to fix that. There wasn't there wasn't anything I could do. There was nowhere I could go to get it fixed or anything. So
Crazy glue, none of that would work.
yeah, that didn't work in my case. I get up the next morning and I told Nick, I'm like, because the intentions were like, we're going to film this, do a documentary out of it. And I got up the next morning. I was like, we're ready to film. We're all here. And I'm like, I can't do it with the prosthetic leg. So I'm going to do it with crutches. and the one leg, which is probably the stupidest thing I've ever said in my life. I want to say, but I mean, it was tough. It made it really hard to do it, and if like going like going up the mountain was just it was insane. And it like we said earlier, Indiana is not the
Yeah.
same.
It's
You
like
have these little
flatland. Yeah.
hills. Yeah, you have these little hills to go up and down here, but it was just I don't know how to explain it. I was like, after I finished, I was like, that wasn't my smartest idea.
Well,
um,
now, just as a third party who watched it, it seemed like you were, I'm not going to say not struggling, but you were more up for it at the beginning, some of the
mm,
obstacles you were going to face. But
yeah,
like midway up, you could tell your demeanor changed on that. Even though you'd smile and everything, I've known you long enough to know when the smile is a forced smile or the smile like when you were starting. And I was like, okay, he's struggling now.
yeah,
Okay. And you admitted it a few times. You were struggling a little bit.
yeah,
And, and the next time I thought about it, we talked about this before we went on the air, that you were on your knees, out on your arms, and you were moving with your arms at a certain point.
yeah.
And Nick, God bless him. I mean, I know I met him once, but it was so brief, that so long ago too. But
Hmm.
I have a much higher respect for Nick after, I shouldn't say after watching that, but a much higher respect for him, seeing what he did with you there. And I don't
Yeah,
want to give it away. Though they may have seen a little in that clip, let them watch this and understand how there was a bond of friendship
yeah,
that was there, that if you didn't know, you knew midway up that mountain. I mean, he
hmm,
started right from the beginning, but I think because we put the obstacle one, I think comes up, and then obstacle two, and as you
yeah,
go along the way. But I
hmm,
mean, he was really good. Um, and I don't even want to say how it ended, because again, I want them to watch the video, the documentary, and it's on
yeah.
Amazon Plus. So most people have, or is my Amazon Prime. I'm sorry, I
No
keep saying
problem.
Plus. I know I was
Yeah,
wrong. Amazon Prime, and most people have Amazon Prime because most
hmm,
people paid for Prime to ship, stuff for free second day.
yeah,
And I think I paid like $1.99 or something to watch it, but it
yeah.
was still worth
Yes, so
every
much.
penny of it. Now, do
Hmm.
you get the money from that, Lost Limbs?
Um, I don't. I don't know like how that's set up now. Honestly, I don't remember. I don't remember how we set that up. Um, but I mean, we did. With the video that you were talking about that you showed in the beginning, something I like. While I'm thinking about, it, I want to add in there with it is people see me at times on Nick's back. There were moments that there's areas on the mountain that you cannot get through on one leg and crutches,
Mm-hmm.
and and so we would have to stop. And even right at the very beginning, like you probably saw when you watched it, there's this creek we have to go across, and there's
Right.
this big log that's like this big section of this big log that's
Right.
like
Something
laying
that we
across the
would just
creek.
step over, but you can't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and yeah. I mean, I can't step across it, and it's
Mhm.
cooler weather, so it's like if I step across, if I go across that
Well,
in
then,
boot, yeah, if I try to do it on crutches and stuff, I'm going to have to step in the water, which is my foot's going to be freezing because it's going to be colder as we go up higher,
go up. Yep.
higher up on the mountain. Um, I mean, it was there were so many times that we had to do that. I mean, he would have to stop, and he was just like, I'm going to have to carry you a few hundred feet or whatever it was, and then I can sit you back down and then go back to normal.
How long did you do pre pre gym work for the upper body strength for that?
Months. if I had to guess, probably about 5 or 6 months.
Well,
And which it was, that's the only thing that helped me through getting, doing the mountain climb, because those moments to where it's just all rocks in these areas, the only thing I could do is hand off the crutches, and I would have to turn around and, like, behind me, I'd have to put my hands behind me on the next rock and then lift myself up. Then you do it with the next rock, and you just keep doing that through the whole section of rocks that's on there, or whatever. However you had to do it. And I mean, even when I got back to my hotel room that night, like, how you can see the little bone here and everything, it was gone. You couldn't see any of this. It was so swollen from pushing myself up, and I hurt so bad, like I was trying to grab the door at the hotel room to get into my room, and I was having trouble doing that.
what injuries did you sustain? I mean, we know your back and with your hand. What else did you actually sustain from that?
Most of it was my back, and then because I got hurt, and then just my wrists were really bad. I mean, my whole body was aching because I just, again, like walking around on these little hills here isn't anything like trying to actually climb a mountain that's like 6,300 feet.
Well, it's. I mean, when I watched it, and they talked about your back, I was like, well, duh. Okay, but did you fall? Because they don't show that. All they talk about is all of a sudden Mike's back hurts. His back is hurt.
Well, that was at what we were doing. We didn't film the entire time as we were going up. So there was those moments at times we wouldn't film, and we would just kind of get through some of those areas. And that was one of those moments that we weren't filming, and we got in a spot where Nick's like, "I'm going to have to carry you up this area," and it was like, I don't remember how far it was, like maybe 300 or 400 feet, I don't know, or something, if I had to guess. But as you see in the video, I mean, I had to put my arms like this around his neck. And then you see that my whole leg is over here. I have partial leg here. Throws my balance off.
Right. Yep.
He trips, and when he trips, my whole body swings like this way because I have the more weight,
the whole
leg. So I twist up, and then I kind of fly over him. Like, I don't know. It was really weird the way it happened. But yeah, he was just like, we got to go. And I'm just like, I've done something to my back.
I just figured I was thinking more sounds really weird, but your armpits from having the crutches.
I've been so used to that. That part never, I mean, it did hurt, and I had bruises like under my arms. In areas, but yeah, it wasn't. I mean, I don't know. Well, it's probably a little more than usual, obviously, because that's a lot of crutching up a mountainside.
Do you think it would have been easier if you had the prosthetic?
Honestly, I think it would have been harder.
Okay.
I've had people ask me that, and I think it would have been a whole lot tougher having the prosthetic leg.
Well, then somebody up there was looking out for you, making us leak the night before.
Maybe so, but yeah, when immediately I thought back at the end of the day, I was like, I probably wouldn't have been able to do it if I had the prosthetic.
Probably a little in the beginning, but that would have been it.
Yeah, I wouldn't have gotten too far. I would have gotten a little ways, and I'd have been like, I'm turning back. Gotta go back.
Come on, even I watched some of the way up, and Jen was watching part of it with me, and she said, such love. She turns to me and she goes, well, you wouldn't have even been able to make up half of that hill. I was like, I love you too, okay? But yeah, I mean, it wasn't, to our listeners, and they'll see when they watch it, this wasn't like just flat ground. that was a little rocky.
No.
Some of that was
Yeah.
like straight up and down, up
Yeah.
at an angle, but it was like climbing up a hill.
It
And,
was pretty crazy at times.
yeah, I mean, God bless you that, you made it up there. And, we'll let people see how the movie ended and everything that they endured in between. Again, I very rarely highly endorse something, okay, because it has to genuinely hit me. I mean, I can say, oh, he has such a good book and stuff. I can do that easily. But when I genuinely endorse something, it's because I enjoyed it. And probably one of those things that in a month or two from now, probably when I'm down in Florida and sitting there, I'll probably pop it on again and watch it again because you get a much better take on it the second time
Yeah.
because you now understand what's going on. Now you may catch little things that you didn't catch before. So, yeah, it
I
was really.
agree.
Now, where do people find out more information about the Rhodes Hotel?
They can go to rhodeshotel.com, and then we got all the information on there about booking private investigations. We got the public investigations that we do every month. Those are listed on there. The one for December is sold out, but I think there's some tickets left for the January public investigation. But we do those every month from 6 p.m. until 2 a.m. We do private investigations from 7 p.m. until 2 a.m. Or people can actually spend the whole night here from 7 p.m. until 10 a.m. the next morning if they want. So there's two different options they can choose from to when they rent the place out.
What I always tell people too that a bunch of friends want to go to a public thing. It's like, you know what? Get another friend or two, pay a couple of dollars more, and go do the private one.
Yeah.
Because you'll even spend time with them on a private one if they want
Yeah.
to at least get them going, let them see the
Mhm.
place and everything else. But I think people will have much more fun and get a lot more activity with the private. See, I can't do the public stuff because
Yeah.
there's always somebody talking or making noise or something that's going on, and you want to go down and like slap them off the head. I'm from New York, so that East Coast thing. Okay, I got that as well. Okay, so we usually don't do that at all. Heck, I think
Yeah.
there was one Chip did um, for Scarefest one year. It was
Mhm.
at some old brewery or something like that, and we got talked into. I was going to say conned into, but talked into going on this thing, and
Mhm.
it was with about 400 other people. And we thought we were going to spend some time with Chip. Nah, forget it. Chip was like so
Yeah.
far ahead that we were in the group, and we were in this one room, and it was from, I don't want to say the name of the company, so I don't get in trouble.
Mhm.
But the person was standing there, and he was like, "Oh, look, the K2 meter is going off." And he's standing in front of a window, and right
Mhm.
behind him are all the power poles with one of the power boxes wide open.
Mhm.
It's like, look, it's lighting up and everything else. So I went over to him afterwards. I was like, dude, okay. I was like, don't mean to be mean, but you do realize you're standing in front of power lines. He goes, yeah, I know. And I was like, then why are you doing that? He said, well, to keep the
Mhm.
people entertained.
Mhm.
I was like, I don't think they want to be entertained. I think they want to experience genuine activity. And
Yeah.
that's making up activity. And so there was a couple of times during the night things like that happened that I just was like, get us out of here. As soon as we got back to the main floor, we were gone. Okay, we just left. And when I saw Chip
Yeah.
the next day, he was like, where'd you guys go? I didn't see you. And I was like, no. And he goes, yeah, I know. And I was like, I
Yeah.
know. He's like, but I get paid to do that. It was like Joe Chin at the event we were at there
Mhm.
in Fort Wayne. He had to do both nights of the paranormal investigations. And
Yeah.
the second night, we were waiting to go out to dinner, and he was getting into the car to take him there, and he was like grabbing onto my shirt, "Get me out of here, please! Get me out of the car. I want to go with you guys. I don't want to do this." Okay, your second night in a row, and Joe is like, I think what I've learned, and I'm sure you've learned even
Mhm.
more, that all these celebrities, if we want to call them that, at Paracons, are just regular people. And they're
Yes.
some of the nicest people you ever
Yes.
want to meet, hang out, to talk with. I
Mhm.
mean, even Jason, Jason Hawes, I got really good friends with him at that event. I'd seen him numerous times, and he
Yeah.
sort of remembered who I was. But this
Mhm.
one, well, we did 3 days, so we actually hit it on really well.
Yeah.
And I remember one morning, it was before the event was starting. I think it was Saturday morning, and we'd all eaten breakfast.
Mhm.
And I was down in the main room. Then I had to go back to the hotel to get something if you were staying in the hotel. And when I
Yeah.
came back, I passed the VIP group, and there was like 15, 20 people there. And they were all edgy and antsy, like all giddy and stuff. I was like, oh, good Lord.
Mhm.
As I turned the wall, here comes Jason coming out of the room. And he was going to go get something in his hotel.
Yeah.
And I stopped him. I was like, don't go that way. And he goes, what? I was like, right around this corner, the VIPs.
Mhm.
He goes, oh crap. Okay, thank you. And he made like a line out the door, walked out the street around the corner. I was like, yeah, So you start to become super friendly with everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how we've known Scotty Rourke. I mean, him and his wife. We were actually part of Psychics Unite. We helped him get the website up and everything else with that. Jen actually took courses with him for a while in the
Yeah.
beginning. So, I mean, Jim and Scott Tepperman. Were you ever in
Mhm.
one of their movies?
No, I haven't done
Well,
anything with them with that. Yeah.
you're lucky. You got away so far with that. I don't know how they've let you get out of that. And of course, if one of them's listening, that's over for you at this point now, because they're going to give
Yeah,
you
yeah,
one of
it
the
might
things.
be. Yeah, no, like we'll come up with some kind of crazy plan to
Did
do
they?
something.
You know what? They do well. Some of the movies they've made recently are really good. So,
Yeah.
where can people see you next? What's the next event for you?
I'll be at the Unity Day that Robin's doing over in Illinois at the
The
our
theater.
theater.
Yeah.
I'll be there in February, and then there's not so much like really put together so far for next year, but I mean I'll be there and I'll be at Michigan Paracon at the end of August, which is I'm always there at that one. And I think this is be like the 6th or 7th year I think that I've been to that one. And then I will be at gosh, where else? What else is going on?
Are you going to
Um,
be at Mansfield this year?
yes, I will. Yes, I will be there too in May. Yeah, that's
So
at the
we're
end of
actually
May.
coming. As I said, we're coming back up for that one.
Yes, I'll be seeing you there. Yeah.
Yeah. We had to miss last year because that's when I was diagnosed with this.
Hmm.
And at that point, we didn't know what we could do, what we couldn't do. Well, maybe phrase that what I could do and what I couldn't do. We had no clue of. And I was already feeling the bad effects the previous year because that's
Yeah.
when I started feeling the breathing. And they had
Hmm.
us up on the second floor in what I call the locker because it
Hmm.
was this temperature in that room was like 98 degrees and it smelled like a boy's locker room when you
Hmm.
went in there. And we had to carry stuff down. All wait 4 hours for the elevator, to take you downstairs. And at one point, Jen was just taking stuff down herself. And
Yeah.
I was standing there, and the guy comes over to me. He says, "You need, we're getting ready to close." It's like, well, we only got this left, And he says, "Well," he says, "you better like crack the whip with your helper." Joking around, I was like, "That's my wife, and if I crack the whip, I'll get a frying pan across my head." And he's like, "No, I'm sorry." I was like, "No, just leave her alone. Just let her. She's already upset enough. Leave her alone, okay?" So we're taking it down because we didn't know what I had at that point. So
Yeah. Yeah.
since then, I mean, I've done Hannah House. That's something
Hmm.
you guys should really go to every year.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, yeah. I think every year there's been something else going on that
Mhm.
weekend because it's like in August. That's in August too,
Yeah,
isn't it? Yeah.
they get
Yeah.
about 3,000 people through the door. I've
Mm,
done like 2 years, and Yeah, I do the website for Hannah Mansion. So yeah, they do really, really well there. Jason
Yeah.
Snyder does a really good job there as well. So, hopefully we'll run into you at some point next
Yeah.
year. They
Yeah.
can look you up on Facebook. I'll have the links for the websites for both the
Yeah.
Lost Limbs and for the Rhodes Hotel. And what I want, before I forget, because I should have written it on my paper here, but something I do every year that other
Mhm.
people do. When you have your birthday on Facebook,
Mm.
okay, you've seen a lot of people put up donations. You're raising
Yeah.
money for A, B, or C. Look for the Lost Limbs Foundation. Because every year that's what I do. Instantaneously, my birthday, I look for the Lost Limbs Foundation.
It's
And,
appreciated.
even if it's 50, 100, 150, you know what? That's still another $150 that's going towards it and stuff. So it's something that's so easy you can do. And if you can, I know we're going into a recession and stuff like that. But if you do have the extra money, even, you take $15, $25 from people, whatever you got, give a little bit to it. It doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
If you can do a fundraiser, maybe that's what you want to do. Contact Mike, find out what kind of fundraiser that they can do, have what the parameters and stuff are, and do a fundraiser. Your church may want to do one. They may even just want to take a special collection for it and stuff. So there are so many different things you can do, but it's helping. I think, nothing wrong with Cancer Society and
Yeah.
Alzheimer's and all that stuff. But I think on a personal level, to see a child smile after they get something like that, that is their, okay, I can do this
Yeah.
moment that we talked about before. How do you keep moving forward? That's their way of moving forward. And it's just such a sin that we want to, no, I'm going to get emails. I could, but we want to erase student loan debt when yet we have to pay, kids and families have to pay so much money for a prosthetic. It's insane that we're doing it. The money would be better used helping people that need help. That's just my feelings on that. And I won't go into politics and stuff. I always swore to wife I wasn't going to do that. But it's a good way to, we need to get money, and we need to get money to you so you can help these kids again. So, Mike, I want to thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's been a
I
pleasure. It's
appreciate it.
been something
Yeah,
I've
it's
been
been
looking
fun.
forward to do for a while, having you on. The moment I started saying I was going to do the show, one of the first guests that I put on the list was your name, because your name has to be out there. And I tried to ask you some different questions tonight than that you probably asked on interviews, because I know they can get tiring.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, I mean, like it's nice because I mean, we got to talk more in depth with a lot of things and stuff tonight too. So, but yeah, I mean, I appreciate you having me on. It's been a
And
fun
where do
night.
they find your podcast? Where does your podcast run?
You can. It's if you go to Facebook, you can look up Paranormal Chat on LLF Radio, and you can follow that page, and we just stream it right from that page on there. Or you can go to YouTube and just look up LLF Radio. We do post
Show up there as well.
Yeah, we do post them on there as well.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on. And if
Thanks
I
for
don't
having
see
me.
you, have a Merry Christmas before
You
then, because
too.
that's coming soon. And we will, at least I know we'll see each other in May.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
all
Yep.
right. Thank you. And you have a great evening.